The question we're asking is, are there beliefs that are more important and less important to proclaim in order to live in polite society? Well, Brad gave us this as a possibility. So, Brad says vaccines are the most important of the three things here. That the question of vaccines versus anti-vaccines, that's the most important thing, because it proclaiming to be anti-vaccine, especially if you're a movie star, is an actual, I think, a threat to the health of our society, our physical health. Now, Brad places evolution as more important than abortion. I think most people would agree with this one, but it's these that are interesting. And understand that Brad sees science as a very important part of society, our modern society. And evolution, therefore, even though it doesn't, proclaiming creationism, let's say scientific creationism, doesn't cause the sort of immediate problems that anti-vacciners produce. It may cause things like anti-global warming beliefs in that. So Brad says it's so important, science is so important to our society that we can't have people not rejecting science as anti-creationist does, he says. The abortion issue, and these are my words, not Brad's words. The abortion issue is important, and these are not which of these are the most important, but it's the most important to proclaim to be in polite society. And abortion is such a difficult question. We have on the one side people who are pro-life, who believe that the life of the unborn child is so important. And on the other side, we have people who believe that the right of women to have control of their reproductive choices is so important. And so it's not that this is not important. And you could argue that in fact this is more important, because if you're, let's say, pro-life, you might convince someone not to have an abortion and to save a child's life. But I would argue, yes, it might be important for that person, but I'm not sure that that's more important for society, polite society. On the other hand, I would actually move abortion farther this way, because since Roe v. Wade, though people have strong beliefs about abortion, it doesn't have any consequences unless you consider electing Donald Trump president in order to get a Supreme Court justice, but let's not go down that road. Actually, I want to think about evolution for a second. I'm not sure that I buy that is super important. I think you could be a working engineer, at least, let's say, a person who designs computer chips and works for Apple, and be a scientific creationist. For crying out loud, Stephen Jobs believed all sorts of weird things. But though it's interesting to think about these things, what I really want to think about is, are these all within polite society? And I would argue yes. I think the line falls here. That these are all within. And maybe some people think that vaccines should be right there. Remember this is, I'm arguing that there is, within the citizens of the United States, there is a polite society. And we said the Nazis were one of them. I'm going to throw out that the Amish are not part of polite society, not because they're evil and bad, but because they have placed themselves outside of a society. They want nothing to do with American government. They don't vote. They don't send their children to school. They engage commercially with our society, but they have pulled away from our society. So that question is, do the people belong in there or not? And I was thinking about this, and it might help to think back to the question of slavery. I would argue that slavery in 1800, though an important question, was not the most important question to be in polite society. But over the years, by 1850, it has moved. Once we take over all of Mexico's possessions, and the question of, at this point in 1800 or even 1820, when we're thinking about a state coming in, but 1850, I'm not going to do my American history, you should know this, but 1860, of course, when Abraham Lincoln, an abolitionist president, at least that's what the South said, is elected, they decide to leave. I mean, that's when something's happened. So that's, I think, all we have to say today, because we've already run over time. We'll pick this up tomorrow or next day.